This week on the Legion Clubhouse, hey, guess what? We're finally going to get the origin of the Legion of Superheroes. Again.
They were the heroes from the future, teenagers protecting the universe from those that would sow the seeds of chaos. Each had unique powers and abilities, and though they often had their differences, they came together to save the day as the Legion of Superheroes. Now, you can be a part of their adventures and learn the history of the future in the Legion Clubhouse.
All right, so I will be honest. You read the cover and it says, The Origin of the Legion of Superheroes, and I'm just like, mother effer. The last thing that I want is a 43rd iteration of the same story that we've seen again and again and again. But this time, because the universe has shifted slightly, the origin story is slightly different. And more importantly, we get it from the point of view of Marla Latham, which is fascinating to me because that is something that we haven't seen. Sure, we've kind of a little bit seen a little bit of R.J. Brand's how he saw his assassination attempt.
Mm-hmm.
But this time we straight up just, hey, I'm Marla, and here's how I met R.J. Brand, who was a Durlan, and we went back to his planet, and he had a kid, and I did all these things for him, and he became rich with his cousin, and that led to his cousin getting insane and wanting to kill him, and these kids stepped in, and I became the overseer of the Legion of Superheroes, which, to be fair, we really haven't seen a whole lot of Marla in the last 50 years. But it was nice to kind of see this story told from a completely different point of view with nuance and insight that we haven't seen before.
Yes, and it does what it should have done, especially whether or not they intended issue 4 and issue 5 to be where they popped up. This is a new iteration of reality. This is a world where things, for really the first time, and I say that with, air quotes, but when you look at this situation, the Legion's had retcons before. We've had weird changes. We've had, oh, by the way, R.J. Brand is your dad. This is the first attempt at what 0 Hour would be a few years later, proving once again that where the Legion goes, the DC universe follows. But it does give us things that we knew. And it also takes various elements of previous origins that may not have always kind of fit together and makes them streamline together. So we see, those early moments. We see the bit with the quintile crystal, the Legion's first moments, and we reference the original costumes.
Yeah, they do reference a lot of, the original adventures, the early adventures, which I thought were pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we get the moment where Triad shows up and Phantom Girl shows up, which I don't think we've ever seen before because they first appeared already members of the team in like Action 276 or something. But it also really goes and delves deep into that backstory of how exactly did Reap not know that his dad was R.J. Brand? How exactly does any of that happen? How did R.J. Brand, an alien shapeshifter, get locked in the form of a fat Irishman? How did he become the guy that he is? Why is all of this happening? Because at the time, it really did feel kind of like everything you know is wrong. This story lines it up.
Well,
it
yes,
says, okay,
but
why did his cousin try to kill him? Was his cousin also a Durlan? We've never had that explained before.
Yeah. And I'm not sure, was it ever said that it was his cousin that had tried to kill him? It was always just some unknown assassin or some group of assassins.
Doyle Brand is part of the narrative before this. Doyle being responsible, being behind the hit, is something that I think came before I want to say it came before the Volume 3 Legion launch. I want to say it was something that popped up back in the 70s. Because it was one of those times that they were retelling the story over and over and over. And you were like, are we seeing this again? I'm like, yeah, but now he's got a cousin.
Yeah.
But
well,
I
it's
don't know.
not even really his cousin, but just this guy he latched onto.
Derlin's just sort of come out of a vat of
Yeah.
stuff, like 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 the Great Link. So you're
Yeah.
really all
So
cousins.
I like this, but at the same time, there
Mhm.
is a lot of twisting and turning to try to get a retcon in for both of these two issues, right?
Yes.
There's so much. It's like, hey, I like this kid, Valor. We should make a team based on him, and it's like you're really doing a lot of twisting to wedge that into continuity.
Hmm. Well, I mean, you can't use Superboy anymore, but
Well, but I mean,
it.
not only, I mean, yes, obviously they can't use Superboy curse you, John Byrne.
Mhm.
But it's like so much so that they have to invent, a different version of the Phantom Zone, this in
Mhm.
between space between Bug Tussle and Earth that Valor has been stuck in. And it's just like,
Mhm.
you guys are really starting to, the seams of continuity are breaking apart. The harder that they try to wedge these new updates into the storyline.
It's almost less like wedging, and I think of it like reconstructive surgery, because lately I've been watching a lot of MASH, and this isn't so much a we're going to stick in this Bug-Tazolian Phantom Zone. It's this child has lost a big chunk of his leg, and we're going to take that main artery and we're going to like screw it back together, and we're going to take out a big chunk of his guts or something. So they're actually covering, because bug tussle existing in the same vibratory space as Earth is established lore,
Yeah.
as we saw back during the Reflecto. So, creating that weird zone in between. And Phantom Girl always could enter the Phantom Zone. So, I mean, it's
But
kind of
but the
like
thing that they haven't
surgery.
answered yet, which again, more of the cracks and the seams appear, how did
Mhm.
Valor get into the Phantom Zone?
Ah, well, that's a story that they're going to be telling in the pages of L.E.I.G.I.O.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah,
we'll read
sorry.
the Wanderers, ladies and gentlemen, but not the Legion. Not the Legion.
You just
So
you're
just
just
gotta
mad
keep
because
that in
the
mind.
Wanderers was awful.
Yeah, I am. Who wouldn't be?
I mean, I remember reading it in the 90s and going, there's like the bones of something interesting here. Too
The
bad
only
they
thing
screwed it up.
the only thing that's really weird about this
Mhm.
is that Marla's always wearing the same uniform as Ultra Boy, or for the most part, we've always
Mhm.
seen Marla wearing that, which always to me implied that he was of Rimbor, that he was always from
Mhm.
Rimbor, but that's not the case though in this reboot
No.
telling.
And I'm trying to remember if Marla was explicitly from Rimbor or, well, when we first saw him, Marla dressed like Ultra Boy's dad. And
Yeah,
that story is about 30% still continuity.
yeah.
But we've seen him pop up since, still wearing the costume. And I do like the fact that we keep seeing him with his little cross wrenches chest symbol. And I'm like, what is that? Is that like his family crest or something? Is it a religious symbol? Is he a member of the cross wrenchers? I don't know, but
Could just be like a caste system kind of thing, right? Where
could be.
because what is he? Is he a security guard? Is that where we first meet him as
Uh,
security?
I can't remember if he's
He was
security or
working
if
on the
he's
docks. So he is working on the docks. So that
a
may
dock
be
worker. Yeah,
a symbol of the dock workers union.
could be.
Yeah, it's never
I don't
explained.
know.
And that's fine. That's not that big of a deal, but I just, you know, again,
Yeah.
again,
You know what else is never explained?
as I've said before, uh, they should have done this at Crisis and not waited until this point to where they then have to finally do it coming up in 0 hour.
But now they're doing it and they're trying. And I
Yeah,
have to
no, it
admit,
works really
I
well.
feel
I
like
mean, yeah, it works really well, and I like this issue a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because, as I said at the beginning, of the different perspective of the origin that we are getting.
I remember reading this issue probably in the spring or summer of our freshman year of college. And I remember being really bugged by the art of Chris Sprouse. And I did a little digging. This is
he just the inker on this, or is he the full-on artist?
He is the full-on artist of the flashback sequences.
Okay.
So Chris Sprouse here, and this is either the third or the second, I can't remember which, but it's a very early published work by Chris Sprouse. And just maybe 2 years down the line, he'll be launching the Legionnaire series. And it's amazing to look at this, and you can see the bones of everything that we know. Your Chris Sprouse of Legion, your Chris Sprouse of Tom Strong, the Chris Sprouse who grew up to become the guy, the dude who made, the Adventures of Supreme with their fake Legion of Superheroes so cool. But it's also something where I remember why I was annoyed by it. And part of it is the fact that Chris Sprouse draws characters with very protruding noses. And it's kind of the opposite of that thing that Giffen does, where people have no nose or their whole face exists in shadow. And I remember reading this and going, oh, I didn't like it. Now, today, I'm like, this is interesting. The bones of something really cool are here. The sequence where we first see the Durlan getting beaten up by a bunch of dock workers with their little sticks. And, he's just kind of this mass of worms and big bug rubbery eyes. That's a really cool shot. I'd like to see this story, redrawn by an older version of Chris Sprouse. But then, what's the point of that?
I mean, that is not unheard of. I think it's DC did it not too long ago, within the last 15 years, depending on when you're listening. And maybe Marvel did it as well, where maybe it was Marvel that I'm thinking of, where they had these original scripts that they had the art for and everything, and that they were published. But then they were like, hey, why don't we get this artist to redo this stuff and re-release them? So it's not, to have not a director's cut, but to have essentially a remake of an old comic, but with new art, has been done before. And I'm not totally against that. Although I think that lessens the role of the artist in the collaboration of a comic book, where you can say, well, we can do Superman fights Muhammad Ali, but we've got to get a different artist instead of was it Neil Adams? Or like what they did with Superman with Jack Kirby, where it's like, oh, we can't have Jack Kirby do the art. We have to go in and redraw Superman's face so that it matches the Swan take on Superman. And that just, I get it. And I think that, first of all, unless you're doing something new with a remake, kind of like what this issue is, where we're getting a different take on the origin, I'm not a huge fan of remakes. Especially if it's a shot-for-shot remake, like the Psycho movie that they did, again, like 20 years ago.
Or like when George Lucas made that remake of The Hidden Fortress in 1977.
No, because that's not a remake. that's a completely different thing. But I'm not a big fan of a remake for a remake's sake, just because we need to make more money, or because we don't control an IP, or we've drained ourselves of any creativity, and we're only holding out for the shareholders. So I don't know. I guess I would be okay with it. I would probably be less interested in it unless it was like whoever was the hottest artist at the time. Let's say it was DC saying, hey, we want to do the entire run of the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, hard-hitting heroes run, right? But at the time, the greatest artist that ever lived was working for Marvel, and it was exclusive to Marvel, and we could never do this story with that artist, even though we wanted to, because they're exclusive. That artist is still alive today, not exclusive with Marvel, so we're finally getting the team up that we wanted. I think that would be interesting to read, but again, that also means that the artist of that original run is diminished. So I don't know if I would want to see this stuff with a new artist.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, because I feel like...
Go ahead.
Part of it you get is, differences in art, but there's also differences in production techniques and the coloring. And I hate it when Marvel does that thing where they will digitally recolor works from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, well, DC does the same thing.
It doesn't work. True. DC, I feel like DC doesn't do it as much to where I go, darn it, DC, stop doing that. Well, I'm sure they do.
Yes. I mean, but probably the biggest is the Killing Joke. That was the one that got the most people upset because the coloring was so off from the original art to what they redid it. So there is that.
And that's a thing too. But when you look at a story, and honestly, this issue does it well. When you look at a story from 1961, it has a sort of a visual style, a visual framework that isn't necessarily the same as 1990. So it is nice that as soon as Marla starts thinking back and we get the 9-panel grid goes away, because we're back at a time when it wasn't, more traditional storytelling. Whether it's intentional to make that effect or not, it feels like the flashback is more of a, hey, here's, a Silver Age look at things. It's not Silver Age art necessarily, but it kind of has that feel. And I appreciate that.
Now, one way that they could do a redo of the art is if, and I don't know if Chris Sprouse is still alive or not, but if Chris Sprouse was like, I was a young punk and I didn't like my art, and DC has asked me to redo this issue in my current style, I would be down for that. I'd be totally okay with that, because then the artist gets to get paid twice. So I'm totally okay with that. Yeah.
I was going to say Sprouse isn't even 60 yet. He's like our
well,
age.
Doesn't matter. I mean, age is not an indicator of how close you are to death, as R.J. Brand almost finds out. In this issue. Also, in this issue, we find out why
Laurel
went all nutso in trying to retrieve Ron Vidar, because they got a kid together.
Yeah, his new identity of baby daddy lad is why she was after him. But it is not explained where the baby came from, because Rock asks, and she's like, well, if you don't know that by now, I'm not going to be the one to tell you. But that is a nice reveal, because if you think about it, if Laurel is obviously a stand-in for Supergirl, and Supergirl / Laurel had a thing for Brainy, who is Brainy's best friend and intellectual equal? Ron Vidar. Slightly more human, slightly worse taste in clothing, still a genius, still kind of a brainiac type, has a lot in common with him. They were friends. They hang out in the lab together. It makes, to me, logical sense that if you are attracted to Brainy, you could be attracted to Rond. And it also makes for that awkward moment when Brainy finds out that his best friend married his ex, and he's just like, oh,
yeah.
And they have a baby together.
Yeah. We'll find out more about that in just a moment.
If you enjoy the show, we would appreciate your support. You can find out more and become a Legion Clubhouse member at patreon.com/major spoilers.
So we already got the origin of Legion of Superheroes, but as we all know, Supergirl became a member of the Legion of Superheroes before Superboy did. And so issue number 8 gives us that look at what happens when you do these backflips trying to replace a character with someone else. You still tell the original, what was it, Linda, what was Supergirl's name when she was on Earth?
Linda Lee.
Linda Lee, that's what I thought it was. Linda Lee Danvers, right? So you still get all of those stories of like when she went to the orphanage and the super girlfriends show up and all of that stuff. So it's a little bit of flipping around there and maybe a little bit of eye rolling, but they still kind of make it work. But we also get maybe a little bit more about what's going on with the Khund invasion and the slow spreading out of the Khunds across the galaxy, which without a Superboy or a Supergirl or the Legion of Superheroes in place, you could see how a crazy army could slowly spread across the galaxy, gobbling up system after system without people either being aware of it or being able to do something about it.
And honestly, I feel like 2 flashback issues in a row is another example of just how, whether by intention or just by needs be, how crazy adventurous this run is, because we're still in the middle of the story that set off in issue 1 and was doing something weird. And then issue 3, we have Block's death. We're already in issue 9, and they are still traveling to Wynneth. We're still dealing with the consequences of all of the things that happened in issue 3. So having a 2-issue flashback and then resolving Mordru and then 2 more flashbacks. I mean, it's crazy, but it also works. And going through this one, it's another example of, Supergirl grew up in Argo City. Well, Laurel grew up on Ricklef 4. It's an asteroid. You see.
Yeah, and Nargan shows up again.
Eltro.
Yeah. I didn't like this issue as much as the previous one. Because again, now it's just like, hey, reach into this bag of hastily scratched out names and let's yank them out and figure out what we're going to call all these different places. But it still works to an extent. I like, again, for all intents and purposes, even though everyone who's reading this at this time knows that Laurel is a stand-in for Supergirl, it's still an origin of this new character that we haven't met before, technically. And so I'm okay with a lot of this being an origin story after a flashback issue, after, 2 time travel issues. And I like that we get to see a little bit more of the Brainiac Laurel romance going on here. So I'm okay with that as well.
Laurel is almost, if you look at kind of the setup, the Superboy role is taken by both Lar and Laurel, because in these issues, you do see, Laurel showing up. You see her mom, who is dressed like Jor-El. I love the fact that her mom is dressed like Jor-El. I don't know why I do, but it makes me happy. Paris Cullins is handling the art on the flashbacks, and I don't know, man. Paris is divisive for me. I loved his work on Blue Devil back in 83, 84. But here it feels like, even though it's a more polished style and I feel like it's a more experienced artist, it honestly feels like young Sprouse in his third outing kind of did a more, to me, successful bit of art than we see here in this. But it does also explain that in the 30th century, your glasses don't have any earpieces.
Yeah.
They just sort of float on your face, which will become important in an issue or 2.
Yeah. Then they go down to track down, don't they go to track down Doyle in this issue? And he escapes or dies or something. But this is all part of the Roxas storyline, because he's watching this via a holotape. Right.
Right.
So it's not like, they have bookends for this story that make it work into the major storyline, while Roxas tries to do his crazy thing as he attempts to kill as many Legionnaires as we can. We also get a little bit more about the green light that's headed to somewhere, as well as what is going on the Lightning Ring plantation, where suddenly all of these former Legion members are showing up, including Violet.
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson shows up because she's got the what the hell was that movie where she had all the powers because
Lucy.
She evolved to Lucy. That's it. But then we also get a little bit more on her background in that. It's just a few panels where she's just like, oh, I can't believe this has happened, and I'm going to have to face Cosmic Boy again. And it adds a little bit more to the backstory there without having to go into a whole holo tape issue.
Yeah. There's also something at the end of this issue that is almost lost in translation. But if I look really carefully, there is The last page of actual story
Yeah.
has Violet on Wynneth.
Mhm.
She is out floating around in the Golden Statue Garden, and she's
Right.
like, "Oh, did it matter?" And you see Feral Lad, and you see Invisible Kid, and in the background you see a shadowed figure with a chess symbol that
Yeah,
looks
the comet.
remarkably like Kid Quantum,
Yeah.
who doesn't exist yet,
Yeah.
but who will exist very soon. Is this the first appearance of Kid Quantum? I'd like to think so, and I believe that it is. But if we look at that, it's also another really quiet, subtle visual cue of, oh, things are different in this reality, that there are things we didn't even realize. And this is issue 9. I don't think we find out about Kid Quantum for another year or more. So, this is really an example of the best part of these early issues is when they're planting all of these seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Roxas finds out that EarthGov has betrayed him, and Dirk is all like, people are trying to link us to the cowardly murder block. We won't stand for it. I'm just saying.
I never went to the Roxas Island. I knew him. He was doing some terrible things, and I said no.
Yeah, this, by the way, if you look at page 21, is the 4th appearance of Timothy Santosa, the Westerner, who may, at this point, be the first Latinx character in the Legion of Superheroes history. I think. Now, I may be full of it. I don't know. But there he is for 5 seconds.
I don't know who the Wester is.
The Westerner is a guy who was a part of the Legion Academy. Oh, gosh. Probably back around Legion Volume 2.
I don't remember
300.
anybody wearing this crazy getup.
Yeah, it's ugly. It's an ugly
I mean,
suit.
he's certainly America. Heck yeah.
Do you remember the issue right after Superboy died where we briefly saw Laurel Kent wearing Superboy's full costume?
Yeah.
And she's standing there with the other members of the Academy. Yet the Westerner is in that shot.
All right.
4 years earlier. So,
All right. Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. That's how my brain works, kids.
Yeah.
You don't want it.
Anything else from this issue?
The primary takeaway from this issue, I think, is double flashback.
Yeah.
And reusing, as we said before, reusing things that we already knew. Laurel's arch enemy, Zarian the Conqueror, is a Legion foe from back in the day. He originally killed Lightning Lad in his first death. We do get that moment of, oh, here's Eltro for a second, just kind of a name check. But as you go through, there are a lot of little bits and pieces to where, as far as reboots go, this is one of the more thought out, more well-constructed, and I feel one of the last ones that really manages to check, not all, but most of the boxes. The Legion's going to reboot, I think, at least once more before we get into 0 Hour, then everything reboots, and from that point on, it's a free-for-all. But it's clear that they put a lot of effort and a lot of thought into how to make this one work, and it's impressive.
Yeah, I enjoyed both of these issues. What did you think, dear listeners? Did you like the changes that were made? Does some stuff make sense? Do you think that that Laurel would definitely go for Ron Vidar instead of holding out for Brainiac 5? Head over to our Discord server, where you can join the Discord server for free, and you can jump into the Legion Clubhouse channel and talk to your heart's content. Next time on the Legion Clubhouse, will Roxas claim another Legionnaire? What will Tenzel Kim do in response? That's next time on the Legion Clubhouse.
The Legion Clubhouse is a production of Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC, and is produced by Steven Schleicher. Your hosts were Matthew Peterson and Steven Schleicher. You can follow Matthew at Mighty King Cobra and Steven at Major Spoilers. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Legion Clubhouse. If you have questions or comments, send them to podcast@majorspoilers.com. I'm Jason Inman. Until next time, eat it, Grandpa.
This podcast is copyright 2024 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.